All right. Okay, so did my share screen go away?
No, I can
Oh,
still,
okay.
yeah,
Okay. For
you're
some
good.
reason, like I lost the box, but okay. Uh, so welcome everyone to Piggy Banks and Passport supporting UC students applying for study abroad scholarships. My name is Catherine Fitzgerald, and I am a program advisor in the Riverside office. This is something that's kind of been a passion project for Sonia and I over the last couple of months. And just to give you some context on maybe my experience with supporting students on this end for scholarships, I've been able to be a scholarship reader for campus-based scholarships, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed this year, I'll be able to be on a reading committee for a national scholarship. And Sonia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sonia Lind. I'm an Assistant Director of Education Abroad at UC Riverside. I've been working in the field for a little over 7 years, and advising on study abroad scholarships is one of my passion projects. And so much so that I've actually volunteered for every single study abroad scholarship out there, and even a couple of times. My personal favorite is Fund for Education Abroad.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to jump into the financial state of higher education and study abroad. I'm sure you all know this already, but there is a tremendous need for financial aid, for scholarships, but there's a low turnout for scholarship applications. So just for some context here, when we look across the UC, we know that of the undergrads, 35% receive Pell Grants. Pell Grants are an award given to people that come from lower income families, so it's a high need for a lot of our students. In UCR specifically, where we work, 87% of undergraduates received financial aid last year. So a number of our students also receive it. And when we look, however, at just one example, the Gilman Scholarship is one that publishes their data on number of applicants. So if we were to roughly estimate based on Open Doors data and Gilman Scholarship data, we can see that under 3% of students who studied abroad, I mean, this is approximate, across the last 20 years applied for a Gilman Scholarship. Regardless, we know that huge need, low turnout.
And as the previous slide mentioned, we are seeing a high level of need for financial aid and scholarships for our students, but very low turnout when it comes to scholarship participation. I'm sure it's kind of a familiar thing when you hear students say, oh, well, I can't afford to study abroad. And something we always actually say in our office is you can't afford not to. But as you can see, we have so many different opportunities for scholarships for our students across the board. Of course, not everyone will be eligible for the Gilman for financial-based need scholarships. However, there are so many things nationally that students are eligible for, from Freeman Asia to the Bourne Awards, and of course, local, what I would call local scholarships like the UCEAP scholarships that are facilitated through the UCEAP portal. And of course, campus-based scholarships are incredibly important, which we always refer our students over to the scholarships our office provides, but also campus-wide ones that are departmental or even UCR specific that are there to encourage and promote our students to participate in these programs if they apply. And again, so this is a short list of the multitude of scholarships that are out there, but it does kind of beg the question, with all of these scholarship opportunities that are available, how do we encourage and support our students to participate and create strong essays? And this has actually been a question that Sonia and I have kind of been playing around with since we've met, actually. So since the beginning of this year. And actually, very shortly after we started having this conversation, we got a little bit of insight and inspiration. Um, and just a little kind of spoiler slide right here. But during spring break last year, Sonia heard about a last minute scholarship opportunity for some of our students who are who were going on a faculty-led education abroad program. And it was during spring break. We weren't really sure how well received, us kind of reaching out to these students during this period of time where they may not be checking in on their emails, where they may just, they don't want to deal with anything that's like scholastic or school-based. But needless to say, we organized, and rather Sonia organized, some drop-in sessions. And during these sessions, students were instructed to come prepared with something, outlines, notes, even drafts of their essays for staff and peer feedback. And after the completion of these sessions, we realized a couple of things. First, students are willing to sacrifice a couple of hours of their scholastic breaks to work on scholarships and applications. And second, we saw real progress and real improvement in the work that the students were doing during this time, during these structured sessions. So this experience really inspired us to create the Study Abroad Scholarship Series for SoCal students, or as we like to call it, the SASSY Project. So this is actually a pilot that we're kind of doing this fall. The inspiration, of course, was last spring, but this is a pilot series that we're kind of trying to gauge what the correct pacing is for this. But the goal of it is to be a virtual collaborative session for students to develop and write their scholarship essays and applications. And of course, we want our students to develop serious skill that is going to benefit them in the future as writers and editors. And to go into a little bit more of what this project looks like, I'll hand it over to Sonia.
Hey, I think you have one more slide actually.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot I'm in charge.
We split up the slides in this one. I'll go into anyway. So some of the, by the way, I'm just posting in the chat. If anybody wants to join us, we are looking for volunteers to help us out. It's been really, really powerful. And one thing I want to point out that I realized we should have mentioned earlier is that as a result of the initial spring break meetings that we had drop-in sessions with the students, we had a student who received that award. And so it was a $3,000 scholarship. This was a faculty-led program through World Strides. So World Strides does offer scholarships even for its faculty-led students. And so we had a student who was really of great financial need. And fortunately, she was a recipient of this award. So one of the objectives, of course, for us is to collaborate with colleagues like you across SoCal to support all applicants. So we've even opened up this drop-in session, which I'll tell you a little bit in a minute, to other campuses. And we've had a Chapman student join us. We had UCLA students sign up. So we know that it works for all students across SoCal, and we really want to be as open and as collaborative as possible to support everybody, because we know students providing peer feedback, it works no matter what campus you're from. And so the student objectives, we wanted them to really attend one of our virtual sessions to help them review the essay requirements and prompts, to really break down what is involved in these applications, and to really sort of destigmatize the application process for these essays, for these scholarships. Drafting essays, of course, providing them a chance to do that and give peer feedback. We do breakout rooms, and then we are planning a little celebration of this. So we do have a final end date, which is just before the Gilman is due, and we plan on having a little celebration of the students that have been frequently showing up and participating. So next slide, let us show you a little bit more about how it's going. So here's some screenshots. We blanked out the student names. And just kind of gives you a little bit of sense of how the engagement works. We have breakout rooms, typically smaller groups of students, and focusing on their writing. In some cases, it's just a brainstorming about their ideas for their responses. How it's been going so far, we've had 3 sessions all during the summer. We are a quarter system, and so we do, students are still on break and they're still showing up. So we've had 12 unique students. We've had a lot of peer feedback. Peer feedback is really strong. Students providing support to each other. And we provide breakout rooms as well, which we sort of hop in and out of the breakout rooms to help the students. It's been working out really well. So I think the big takeaway is that students show up even during summer and spring breaks, which I think is something that people are not aware of as a time to really reach out, as a gap in time. Next slide, please. We have, here's the flyer that we send out to the students, and we have a little RSVP link here. And if this sounds like something you want to try on your campus, or if you just want to direct your students to our scholarship drop-ins, please do so. We accept students from everywhere, really, seriously, as long as they're studying abroad in that time, and we have students who are applying for the Gilman and Fund for Education Abroad, which is our focus, then send them our way. We do have a tiny URL, and it is, we've nicknamed it a scholarship kit. We might add some more things to this. For example, I'm thinking about adding like a one-page tip sheet for how to volunteer to read for scholarships, because I think a lot of people want to do that. They're aware of, say, Gilman, but they don't know about the other ones. For example, Boren's pretty hard to start to get into, but once you're in as a reader. If that sounds interesting to you, anything here, we do have sample emails that we've sent to students, sample flyers, including this one, and a sample RSVP form, which is on a Google form that you can make a copy of and use yourself. We also have our slides that we send out, that we give to students about getting scholarships. So yeah, I mean, it's been going really well and we're really excited, but this is just one example. We really want to hear from you about how it's been going. So the next part of it is we want to have some breakout discussions. And I think we've got, let me see how many people we've got in this. Let's go with Macy, could we get like, let's say, let's go with 6 groups. I think that'll be good. We get some 6 breakout groups. And the question is, what kinds of scholarship outreach does your organization use? How have you found it to be effective? How does your organization support scholarship applicants? Thank you so much. We'll see you in a few. This will take about 10 to 15 minutes. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes or something.
Let me share my screen once again. Let's see, here we go. Yay. And as we're getting everyone to come back into the room, I hope everyone had a really interesting conversation about outreach, the effectiveness of it, or maybe lack thereof. And of course, what are support practices that are kind of shared across the board? And we'll come back to that once we get everybody back in the room. Let's see, got 15 people. People might be wrapping up their conversations really quick.
Yeah, one thing I thought was really interesting that came up in our conversations was that there is a, there often when we get involved as staff or advisors, we're getting involved at like the late stage. We've already seen the students' applications, like it's complete, it's submitted, but we don't get involved as much, I think, in the early stage. I'd be very curious to hear if anybody actually gets involved in the early stage, sort of the drafting, the writing, the feedback. I'd really love to hear that.
Actually, what I'll do real quick is group discussion.
Yes. So at first, has anybody been involved or initiated early sort of outreach to students who are applying, drafting essays for these scholarships? Is that a big fat no?
Oh, Jason,
Jason?
yes.
Hi, just a department advisor at UC Santa Cruz, but I know that our Division of Global Engagement advisors and UCEAP specific like trained advisors and whatnot, they all offer workshops at the early stages for like, let's say Gilman and for other applications. And that's where students are invited to do all this, I guess, for some, a deep dive into what you've already written, because as a student, you write a lot. You most likely have applied to other scholarships. You most likely wrote, or you must have written something to the UC application via personal insight questions. And so part of the word salad is not just, like grabbing an encyclopedia or a thesaurus and trying to find better words, which is sometimes not a good practice, but rather seeing what you have written and if you have a copy of the prompt, seeing maybe if there is an alignment between the old prompt or a previous prompt and the current one, then like seeing some of the things you've written, you're like, wow, A, that's cringy, but B, this actually is helpful. This might be something that really, speaks to who I am. So sometimes part of the word salad is not just, looking for other ingredients to add, but rather seeing what ingredients you have already included. And therefore you just got to repurpose it. And that's pretty much what I used to tell my students when I volunteered.
I love it. Thank you, Jason. That's a great example, because I think something that we emphasize to our students a lot is that you can repurpose your writing again and again. And so the clearer your writing is from the beginning, the more impactful it can be in the later part of for example, repurposing a study abroad scholarship application for a graduate school application would be a good practice. So that, all study abroad scholarships basically ask, why this program? Why you? And those are, writing about yourself, writing about your personal background is something that, almost every graduate school will ask for. Almost every grant will ask for. So it's an important skill to develop early on. Anyone want to talk about best practices to support student scholarship applications that you either discussed or can think of now? I like the idea of workshops. We've discussed drop-ins. Anything else?
I was like, I can just share a quick little something. Hi, everyone.
Yeah,
Thanks for
sure.
the presentation. I first want to also congratulate you on this exciting project, right? The number of students you're able to reach even beyond your campus. I think that's a really, really wonderful approach. And I think to address the issue that you've highlighted here. I think one of the things that I've been trying to focus on is how do we get this scholarship information in front of students sooner, right? What are all of those touch points? What are the different ways that we can reach them? Because if they're not aware, or they only find out right before the deadline, right, those are additional hurdles that I think would be to everyone's benefit to try to have them avoid. So can you have it on a form that they have to complete that says, hey, while you're looking at your financial aid, you also know that these kind of scholarships exist, right? Or is it a web page? I think in previous roles, like I've created a basic Excel spreadsheet that said, here's all these scholarships. Like, are you eligible? When is the due date? Do you need an essay? Do you need a letter of recommendation? And those sort of things to track it, that I think as students are applying to different types of scholarships and, are potentially overwhelmed because there are a lot of steps involved, right? We all understand that. And so what are the tools that we can provide them to sort of try to facilitate their ability to apply and be successful in each of those, scholarships that they apply for.
That's really great tip, Ashley. Thank you. I mean, I like the idea of having talking about scholarships upfront, putting it maybe even in the program application, right? That would be a great way to early intervention, making sure students are aware of it. And then just continual, we know from marketing best practices that if someone sees something 3 times, they're more likely to remember it. So how can we get something to someone 3 times? Program application is one. Maybe an email outreach is another, maybe a study abroad fair is a third, right? So really simple tips I think might be useful.
I also really love the idea of an Excel sheet that's that students can see, because I'm certainly someone who I love a checklist. I love an Excel sheet. So, for the student who is trying to be on top of, tasks and things, and actually there is, I'm working on something for our campus that's basically when to complete certain things while on their, their education abroad journey. So maybe I'll include some sort of action sheet included on there as a link for study abroad scholarships. So that's a wonderful suggestion, Ashley. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. That was really helpful. Catherine, you're always a good process thinker, so the students benefit from that. Any other comments or ideas on best practices? I know we didn't hear from everyone in yet in the different rooms, but anyone want to share? All right, maybe we should go to ours then.
All right.
So we've written out some of our best practices, and after this, I think I'm going to add Ashley's about early outreach. But so the first one is, of course, just getting familiar yourself with these scholarships. So I don't know, how many of you have volunteered to read for Gilman? Gilman's a big one. So let's just start with that one. Anyone? Thumbs up or response in the big black boxes of Zoom world? Anyone? If you read Gilman, let us know. It is the more time intensive one, but it's definitely one of the sort of ultimate scholarship providers, and really a critical one for a lot of our students. Fund for Education Abroad is my personal favorite. Just a little shout out. I'm not sure Jason told everybody here, but Jason is a recipient of Fund for Education Abroad. So yay. I don't know if anyone else was either a recipient or a reader for Fund for Education Abroad. Strongly recommend volunteering to read for Fund for Education Abroad. It is my favorite one because it is crystal clear what your rubric is for grading each of these applications. And there's also a very sweet interview process if you're interested in doing that as well. I interviewed someone actually half in English, half in Spanish. That was super fun. I found out we were both bilingual. Boren is also really great to learn about. I think a lot of us, because it's on the periphery of study abroad, it's not as central to a lot of our outreach, but it is a really great one to read for, because I think the students who apply for Boren are kind of unique, very interested in working for the government, and also language nerds. So language nerds who want to work for the government, that is a hyper unique group of students, and I think absolutely worth reading. Critical language scholarship, also a unique, great one to read for. They used to pay us to read. I remember back in the day when they paid us to read, but they don't pay us anymore. But anyway, it's still worth reading for. That's typically in the sort of winter break time reading. And then campus scholarships, definitely just sign up for anything, everything. UCEAP, maybe it might have some scholarships. I'm not sure. I'm new here, but the reason why I'd recommend reading is because you get an idea of who they're looking for. Who are they looking for? And by knowing who they're looking for, you can advise your own students on how to be that person that they're looking for. So I think that's really critical. And then I'd say just say, like, reaching out to students, don't be afraid to reach out in the off season, quote unquote off season, like summer, spring, winter break. Students are still engaged. Students, when it comes to money, students are reading their emails. So, all right, Catherine, any?
Some of my best practices that I really advocate for in particular are giving students structure during scholarship application time. I feel like this has been a really, really successful tool by just giving them at least like a timeline of like, okay, for a competitive, well-written scholarship, you're going to want to start this many weeks in advance. And if you do it, for 2 hours once a week, then you'll have something that's quite competitive and quite well written. And I feel like with this current generation of students, they definitely thrive off of kind of having like a little bit more of like a schedule. It gives them like attainable goals each week. And there's also just like a certain level of kind of like pressure of just like, yes, I need to get this done this week so I stay on task so I can submit this on time. We also always kind of emphasize effective scholarship writing practices. So that includes breaking down what the prompts are, because as Sonia mentioned earlier, prompts are incredibly similar in education abroad, but sometimes there are just like little differences that could throw somebody off because they're just like, well, I don't know how to answer this question quite because I've never seen it before. So we always emphasize putting in that time to break down what the prompts are asking for, making sure that students are using clear and direct language. General statements don't do any good when it comes to a scholarship essay. We want them to be as direct and as clear about who they are, what their goals are. No, I want to go into international business. That's why I'm participating in this program. Why do you want to go into international business? Why this location? Is there a particular facet of this location that pertains to international business that you want to go into? Again, just being incredibly direct with that. Also brainstorming what their goals are in general for their time abroad. Maybe it is language-based and we can refer them over to other scholarship opportunities that are critical language or the Boren scholarship. So getting to know the students in that way as well, as we have that structured time. Additionally, it takes a village to get our students abroad. So it also takes a village to support them with their writing efforts. So make sure that you're utilizing any sort of campus or local resources. Of course, campus-based scholarships. We have scholarships on our campus that are departmental, cross-campus, but it's always great to refer students over there because sometimes these scholarships go completely unawarded for long periods of time. And we're just like, no, apply for this. You have a good chance. Writing workshops and the writing centers on campus, because this is also to strengthen and make better writing practices for students overall. I was telling Jennifer in our breakout room that this is a persuasive essay about yourself. So making sure that you have really good writing practices from the get-go, it's going to benefit you for any scholarships that you may want to apply for and any other personal writing that you'll have to do in the future. And one resource I always emphasize to our students is actually the Career Center. The Career Center on our campus does workshops for cover letter writing. Cover letter writing is incredibly similar to writing a scholarship essay. It's a persuasive essay about yourself. So when they're going to these workshops, they're getting flyers and information on how to write non-passive language, how to write about themselves in an incredibly persuasive and beneficial light of why they should be the best candidate for this. So utilizing all of the different workshops and writing centers on the campus, even if they don't seem maybe from the get-go related, they can be, especially when it comes to these kind of developing skills sort of workshops. And of course, your financial aid department. Our financial aid department refers to scholarships and other opportunities all the time that we never knew existed on our campus. Plus, they're going to be the most familiar with what a student has as far as like a financial aid package. So I always refer students over to our financial aid team if they have questions, because they're going to be the best people to talk about their financial situation. So always make sure that you're utilizing your village, not only to get your students abroad, but also to get them that money to get them abroad as well. And I think we're pretty much on time. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending our session. If you would like to join us and be a little sassy, we are always looking for additional volunteers and a larger community to get those students that money so that they can have a wonderful time abroad. But thank you again for joining us with our session today. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. I've just put a couple of comments in here in the chat. So feel free to either invite your students. If you have the ability to invite your students, go ahead. Send them this URL so they can RSVP. Our next session is this Friday. You can also come yourself. We're always looking for people to help respond to students' essays. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, go ahead. And if you want to copy us, you want to copy go ahead. Well, we're an open book, so go ahead and copy our resources as well. We're just here to share. So if you want to join SASE, anything along those lines, feel free to join us. We'll be happy to see you there. Send it to your students. We appreciate you, and thanks for your time. Okay, thanks all.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone.
Thank you.